G'day there guys, relying on miracles but never believing them, it's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love today's bloody good content, sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, subscribe down below, like the video, do everything and have a good time. Posted by user, Companion Doll Am I the A-hole? Titled, Am I the A-hole for telling my friend I don't want his companion doll living with us? I'm 23 female, and my friend 24 male lost his job a few months ago, and he can't afford the rent where he lives anymore. He can afford to pay a quarter of my rent though, so I offered for him to move in with me. A few years ago, his grandfather died, and he got a good sum of money he's mostly worked through now. He bought a companion doll with this money. It's a realistic sex doll, but he talks to her and takes her around places in a wheelchair. I'm not making this up. You can look up if these exist, and I swear they're real. I try not to judge him for this, especially as a girl who has rejected him in the past. I don't want it moving in with us. It's not that he thinks it's real or anything. I don't know if I'm being unfair, but I'm uncomfortable with the entire concept, especially since it requires special place and accommodations, setting up for it at dinner, space for its wheelchair, etc. He says that him and the doll are a package deal, and me being prudish is a stupid reason to stifle his happiness. He also says it's very expensive, so he can't just throw it out, and no one will really buy a second-hand companion doll. He also accused me of being jealous of it. I admit that my main reason is just being really uncomfortable with this doll conceptually, even though it isn't hurting anyone. And it's more important that he has a place to live than me being comfortable. I still don't want to live with it though. Am I the a-hole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I mean, I'm letting the fact that I'm uncomfortable with something that genuinely isn't hurting me keep my friend from having somewhere affordable to live. Now, if I were a smarter man, I would think up different comparisons that we could do that people have in their house. For example, a bird. I may not like birds, but it genuinely isn't hurting me, and, but that could be something I don't want to live with, and that would be keeping my friend from having somewhere affordable to live in their time of need. Unfortunately, this isn't a bird, and this crosses the line for me, personally, so my judgment isn't unbiased. I'm definitely bringing my bias into this and saying I would be very uncomfortable living with someone that parades this around everywhere. Yes, it isn't hurting me, but it's making me cringe on the inside, and I want to get away from that cringe. Just like if I were to see people lugging dildos around in public, sticking them on their head and saying, hey, this is something we should bring to the dinner table. It's not something I want to see, and definitely not at the dinner table. Can we please just separate these two things? I don't blame you for enforcing this, OP. What makes me more uncomfortable is you've already denied him, and he's putting another facet of sexuality in your face. Perhaps there would be innuendos or vibes that you get from him that he still wants you, and living with him in the same space, I don't know, that you guys don't really sound compatible because of this thing. Maybe the friendship is great on the outside, but I would need more context for that, obviously. But to set a boundary with the companion doll living with you guys, I can understand why you wouldn't want that, and I'm gonna say that you're not an a-hole for asking that. In the comments, BurnerBetty7 says, not the a-hole. It's a sex toy which should remain in private areas. By carting it around common areas, he's exposing his kink to people that do not want to be involved. I've asked him if he could just keep it in a closet or something, but he says that's not how their relationship works. That's why he's so specific about it being a companion doll and not a sex one. It has to accompany him everywhere. Ugh. He says it's as much of a kink as me having my boyfriend over for dinner. I think I should charge both of them rent if I let him move in at this point. Don't let him move in. It will not go well, and you will regret it. Please do not live with this cat. There is zero chance he will leave the doll in his room, even if he promises up front that he will. OP even rejected him in the past. I can almost guarantee that he will pull something like taking the doll into her bed while she's not there. This will not end well. This will either end with a fight in the best case, with cops and trauma/injury in the worst case. I'm not joking. I'm very open to kinks and special people. This is a recipe for disaster. Don't do it. I am no expert, but I have to assume that this should follow the typical kink rules, where it's only okay if everyone consents. You are not consenting to be forced to cohabitate with his huge sex toy, so not the a-hole. I think the compromise would be if it stayed in his room the entire time, so you would never have to see it or have him interact with it around you. But no, I don't think it's reasonable for him to expect you to be okay with him wheeling it around the apartment. Not the a-hole, your house, your rules, that's creepy AF. Also, don't feel any kind of way for rejecting him. You didn't cause him to have to buy a damn sex doll. Not the a-hole. Someone who can only build a relationship with an imaginary partner likely has no way to conceptualize that others have needs and wants separate from his. His partner exists to meet his needs only, and has none of her own. He never has to compromise or even listen to her thoughts because she is an object that he has full control over. The whole purpose of her existence is to remove his need to even try to understand others. How do you think that will play out when you're living together? Your comfort is more important than his. You will be paying the lion's share of the rent, and probably you will end up having to pay it all since your friend is unemployed and clearly foolish with his money. Will he then demand that you make enough food for 3 plates out of your own wages, and force you to just accept the waste as he feeds his sex toy out of your salary? How about paying to fix any damage the wheelchair causes in the apartment? Scratches and dings to the floor and walls are common. No, this situation will not end well for you. Financial and emotional health are critical, and this person will destroy yours. Posted by user AmiTheA 779037. Titled, Am I the a-hole for blowing up when I found that my husband recorded my therapy session? I'm 26 female. My mum passed away in December. It was hard for me to process what happened. I have to say, me and my mum had a lot of issues between us. There's so much that I couldn't say to her, and I'm struggling with grief. My dad is deceased, and my mum was my remaining parent, and growing up, I had many issues with her. I went no contact with her several times, then I reconnected with her. Then we'd get into an argument again, and the same thing happened. I feel bad for not trying enough to fix the situation. I keep getting shamed by family members asking if I'm happy now that my mum is gone, but how can someone be happy when their mother passes away? I'm a mess, plus I'm 5 months pregnant after 2 miscarriages, and it's been difficult. I started therapy 2 weeks ago. It's online therapy. I go into the bedroom, and I have my session with my therapist. I ask my husband not to come into the room or interrupt after he insisted he wanted to be in the room but wasn't allowed. He then started coming in several times, just barging in, bringing me coffee or water, but I know it's a way for him to hear something. I got annoyed, and I told him he was causing me so much stress, and he stopped coming into the room. 2 days later, my husband stopped asking me questions all of a sudden, stopped insisting on being in the room, stopped interrupting my sessions, and I thought he finally got it. But yesterday, as I was doing some cleaning, I heard my own voice coming from the bedroom. I was puzzled, and I walked into the bedroom and found my husband with his phone on his ear, listening to my voice. I then realized that he recorded my voice during my therapy session and was playing the recording. I asked him, and he said that it was nothing. Then he admitted it was a recording of my therapy session. I lost it. I blew up, and I started yelling at him. He told me to calm down, and that it was no big deal, and that he was just curious to know and wanted to also figure out what my problem is and maybe help out. I told him it wasn't his place, and just because we're married doesn't mean he can disrespect me and be inconsiderate of my feelings. This is a very important thing to me, and he kept saying I'm sorry, but I just couldn't help it. I was infuriated. There were things between my mum and I that I find hard to talk about, and I found what he did disrespectful. I walked out, and he kept saying I overreacted and that he's not a stranger. He's my husband. So I went to stay with my sister, who said I was harsh on him and shouldn't have reacted this way. He apologized and said he already deleted it. Even said that I can take a few days to stay with my sister to calm down after he saw how much I was mad. I should mention that he mentioned several times that he was worried about me because I haven't been talking to him much. And I understand he was worried, but that's not an excuse. Information: I'm sorry I forgot to mention my husband's age. He's 31. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I'm an a-hole for yelling and reacting like that without a conversation, but I was livid and I couldn't believe he'd resort to that and disrespect me like that. I think you're well within your rights to be pissed off and yelling at him for that. That's a complete intrusion and destruction of your privacy. If he doesn't get to see these emotions come out of you and see how pissed off you are and see how upset all of this made you, he's not going to change his ways, and he's not going to understand why you didn't want him in the room, why you didn't want him hearing that, why you wanted your own privacy. What's done is done, and shouldn't have happened in the first place, and I think it was expected of you to blow up and react like that, because he needs to learn, and he needs to understand that you need that privacy. And to everyone listening, I'm sorry that I've repeated myself like this, but sometimes with guys, you just have to keep repeating the message until it gets through their heads. I'm one, and I know what that's like. It's frustrating, and we shouldn't have to do it, but you do, because it doesn't work otherwise. OP is justified for yelling and reacting like that, and they're not an a-hole for doing so. I feel like anyone else in this situation would do the same. Not the a-hole. In the comments, It's Solly Boy says, "Not the a-hole. Red flags here, red flags there, here, there, red flags everywhere." Edit. Jesus Christ, people, I get that red flags are a stereotype on this sub, but does it really make me such a hive-minded freak to point out a clear problem? I'm not saying OP needs to break up with her significant other, I'm just saying this story indicates problems that need addressing. How generous of him to give her a couple days to calm down after he violated her therapy. This is bad, OP. Yes, and calm down by her going to the inconvenience of moving to her sister's for a few days, rather than him giving her space and making his own arrangements. What a generous, thoughtful guy. Satire. I noticed that too. He should be the one moving out, and only coming back once he realized the magnitude of this violation of OP. Scratch that, only coming back once OP has decided she's okay with him coming back. Not the a-hole. Your husband is a massive a-hole though. What got to me was when he kept repeating, "I'm sorry, but I just couldn't help it." A version of those words was said to me by my ex-husband. When I had finally had enough of his emotionally abusive behavior, I told him I wanted a divorce. He countered in a bid to change my mind and apologize. "I knew I was being mean to you, I just couldn't help myself." At that moment, it felt like the world stopped, became dead silent, and I could hear a record screech. I looked into my ex's eyes and realized very chillingly that I had no idea who the hell I married. The fact that he had no issue whatsoever in being cruel to me and justifying it that he just couldn't help himself scared the living crap out of me. I understood very clearly that this man was a danger to me and I needed to get gone. It's been 10 years, and to this day, I will never forget what he said because at that moment he revealed exactly who he was. Your husband is the same way, OP. He has just shown you exactly who he is. He has no respect for you. His claim that he wants to help you is a lie. He wants to know what makes you tick so he can use that information to manipulate you in the future. A true partner does not disregard the other's boundaries, does not surreptitiously record a private conversation, and most importantly, he wasn't planning on being caught. This man is giving you a clear picture of what the future holds should you stay. It took me 13 years to leave my ex. Please don't waste your life looking over your shoulder at what the next thing your husband will do. And Be More Sky and Sea says, "Oh, hell no. Let's see here. Ignored your boundaries when you asked him for privacy, continued to ignore your boundaries when you reiterated, only stopped interrupting or trying to listen when he secretly recorded your private session with your therapist, and still hasn't apologized and is 1. Telling you to calm down, 2. Saying that you overreacted, and 3. Presents himself as the good guy because he's trying to help. OP, schedule a session with a therapist immediately and talk over how you are going to establish boundaries if you choose to remain in this marriage. This is a huge violation. Your sister is also an a-hole for questioning your reaction. He R-worded your innermost thoughts. He ignored your no's and pushed ahead without consent for emotions that you did not willingly give him. You are not the a-hole, and I hope you can find a safe place to gather your emotions, talk to your therapist, and determine your next steps. Unless your husband does a 180 and recognizes that he was 100% in the wrong here and has a lot of fixing of himself, you should get out now." Posted by user NoBit7970, titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my stepdaughter that she isn't allowed to order food when we go to restaurants anymore? This sounds bad, but hear me out. My stepdaughter is an absolute pain in the neck when it comes to food. She has legitimate and not mild allergies, but most of them aren't common things. So every single meal at a restaurant, no matter what she would get, would need several modifications. With so many special requests, something is always going to be wrong. I understand that. My wife understands that, and probably on some level, she does too. But it's an entire event every time. She ends up acting like the restaurant is personally trying to kill her. She, of course, has to send it back, but spirals into a breakdown and won't eat whatever they bring back anyway because it isn't safe, regardless of what the truth is anymore. It makes the entire meal a nightmare for everyone, including the restaurant workers. The younger kids end up having their food go cold because they can't eat with the drama going on, and they don't know what to do. I finally broke and told her and my wife, while we were all together as a family, that she would just have to stop getting food when we went out, and that she needs to just wait until we get home. Restaurants don't like having people bring outside food. I think it looks really rude anyway, and she just eats later at home anyway due to these episodes. Not only that, but it's expensive as hell for her to do this. Basic meals that would comply are already not cheap, and it creates so much food waste, which I absolutely hate. My wife says that I don't understand what it's like to have to navigate food when you just can't deal with it like everyone else, and a slight mistake can land you in the hospital, and that this makes her feel like she's less than and not part of the family. I just want to stop wasting money and food and have more quiet meals. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. She is from my wife's first marriage, so maybe I don't have as much sympathy for this as I should, and maybe this is just another cost of having another child, which she is. You put that very bluntly, but that paints a dark picture of you, OP. It really doesn't seem like you have much sympathy for this child because they cause so many inconveniences for you. And it also seems you have less sympathy because they're not your biological child, so why should you care? Yes, you're correct in the fact that this is just another cost of having another child, and you have to cater for that child. Yes, this causes a scene, and this causes drama at dinner times, but that's also the fault of the restaurants not making the meals too standard. I don't understand why you're victim blaming the child here. The child is just trying to eat with the family at a restaurant and not die in the process. Why should they be expected to starve while everyone else around them is eating and having a good time, and they can't enjoy the meal like the rest of the family? Life sucks when you have to have allergies that cater to you that will not kill you, but that's a reality for a lot of people. Have some more sympathy and have some respect for this family that you've married into, OP. You're the a-hole. In the comments, Lily Moskovitz says, "You're the a-hole. Are you effing kidding me? The girl has legit food allergies which could kill her, and rather than taking the time to review publicly available allergen information on restaurant websites, calling in advance, or finding a restaurant that can accommodate her, your solution is that she sit there and watch everyone eat? She didn't choose to have food allergies or the resultant anxiety around it. You, however, are choosing to be a monumental a-hole. Edit: I have kids with opposite food allergies. There is literally 3 restaurants we frequent as a family because I would never put either of them in this situation. And one of those restaurants is an hour away with no parking, but it's top 8 free and they can order anything at all with complete peace of mind. I cannot fathom this crap. There are other things to do on a family outing but eat. If they don't want to cook, they can order in and let her eat her own food. They don't have to go out to a restaurant, drag her along, resent her for inconveniencing them with her trauma from the past accidental poisonings, and forbid her to eat. What the actual F? It's all about him, his convenience, his high and mighty hatred of food waste, and the effect on his wallet. Ugh, can't she just learn not to be allergic, or at least have the decency to ingest her allergens and be at death's door quietly, so he can eat at a restaurant in peace? Ugh, the audacity of this girl. Satire. You're the a-hole. I just want to stop wasting money and food and have more quiet meals. End quote. Then save the restaurants for date nights with your wife, or one-on-one outings with the other kids, and have the family meals at home, or do the research in advance and find places that can accommodate her, instead of getting mad at her when it turns out they're not prepared to deal with something like this. You're the a-hole. While I understand it's annoying, 1. It's completely unfair to make her go with you to just sit there and watch everyone else eat. And 2, if she has to send her food back multiple times because they keep messing it up, well, that's not her fault. If she tells them plainly, or you or your wife do, what needs to be taken off and stuff, they should be able to do it in 1 or 2 requests, not several. If she F's up every single time, something is wrong with how she is doing it or approaching it. People with special diets can get it right, and I'm not blaming the daughter because she's 14. Opie and his wife need to teach her. And it sounds like eating out is a nightmare for everyone. Why do they keep doing it? Honestly, dude, I'm allergic to eggs, which is a super common allergy, and yet most of the times when I mod something to get rid of the egg ingredients, one of them, usually mayo, still makes it onto the dish at least 70% of the time. My allergy isn't extreme. The mayo will upset my stomach a bit, but I don't start getting violently ill until I've had a full egg or so I don't bother sending it back most of the time. That being said, if my extremely common allergy gets messed up despite telling them I'm allergic so often, I kind of doubt it's her just ordering it wrong. If my order of chicken club with no mayo, I have an egg allergy, still gets me mayo on my chicken club so often, I can easily see more obscure allergies getting missed the majority of the time. G'day there guys, and that's the end of today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed it and were entertained by today's bloody good content. As always, I want to do a quick shout out and a thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your beautiful faces and names will be up on screen right now. Haven't forgot about you guys, sorry I was taking a little break there. So yeah, if you see yourself, give yourself a pat on the back. If you want to be on this screen, there's links down to the description below where you can sign up and help support the channel and all future projects that I'm going to be doing on this one. With all that said, I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I'll see you in the next episode, and I do hope you enjoy it. Thank you.